What is up, Buck? I'm Doug with D&E in the garage. Behind me is a 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee WJ, and today we're talking about hood latches and hood latch cables. Now, before we get to what happened to my hood latch and why I've been rolling around with a ratchet strap holding the darn thing closed, spoiler alert, I completely melted the internals out of it. You're not gonna believe what I did to this Jeep. First, let's discuss how they're supposed to work. In case yours is stuck shut, here's how you can go about getting her unstuck. Now, these things sit on the vehicle like this with all the good bits hidden, but here's what you're looking at the back of these units. You got a number of strikers, but your main one is right here. Can you see it? This is the guy that does the heavy lifting. When you slam your hood, this is what pushes down and locks in place, and then this pawl comes over the top there and holds your hood latch down. Now, when you need to release it, you're gonna pull on the cable, which comes through the side here and indexes into this arm here. By pulling that cable, you release that main pawl, and now the only thing holding your hood in is this latch, which you push that way via this lever. So if you have a situation where either the latch inside the Jeep or maybe the hood release cable itself has broken, you want to make your way to this side of the latch. It's going to be on the driver's side, and either try to get a pliers on what's left of the cable or maybe sneak a tool in there. But what you're trying to do is find some way to pull this arm here, and that'll release it every time. If it's this guy that's hung up, say, I don't know, something's wrong, this is missing, bent, broken, inaccessible, you can actually access that guy right through the front here, move this over to the side, you know, with a tool and a little bit of trouble and a little bit of expletives and maybe a busted knuckle or two, but you can get it. There is your WJ hood latch assembly. Now let's talk about my problem. Here is the hood latch out of my Jeep, and as you can see, it's totally cooked. Whatever plastic washers were up here actually melted out right down there, and both of the springs got so hot that they lost all their tension. This one doesn't even fit in there anymore, it just falls out. This one literally has no tension left. They stretched, and they are unrecognizable from, you know, how they're supposed to look right now. This is the result of my hood making contact with part of my battery-ish. Sorta, kinda. This was operator error. I wired in the new winch. I got a video on building this winch bracket and wiring it in and everything. I'll leave a link up there if you want to see it. And the breaker that I put in over the top of the battery, just like I've done with every other winch in this vehicle, but the breakers were bigger because this is a 13,000 pound. I'm coming from a 5,000 pound. Long story short, they made contact with the hood, and I did not realize it was happening because it didn't happen immediately. I guess the cover of the hood was preventing contact, and then as I was driving around and it was vibrating a little, it wore through that, and intermittently it was making contact with the hood, and it was absolutely cooking the area between the hood and where I had grounded the Jeep. And this just took a bunch of that beating, and you could see how hot it got. Now, granted, this is not a common failure, but you will see situations that kind of get you to the same point. I melted the good bits out like an absolute amateur hour driveway monkey. You live and learn, and then maybe next time don't try to burn your Jeep down. But you see situations all the time where these break, these springs, specifically this little one, maybe things bend. These cables can bind up if they start getting shmoo and stuff in between the shielding and the actual cable, and they can break or they can stretch. There's any number of things that could make either one of these not do what they're supposed to do. And then this guy, you can get him for about $35 off of Quadratech or similar sites. By the time you're done shipping, that's 50 bucks, and these are 20 to 50 bucks. So you could spend $100 in parts just trying to keep access to your dang old hood. Unless, head to the junkyard. Where else was I gonna get a new hood latch? Here we go, friends. Not my favorite U-pull, but it is the closest to my house, and I was in a bit of a rush today, so I'm not even gonna have time to walk around the yard like I usually do. First WJ I found was this 03. I believe that color is deep lava red, if I'm not mistaken. One of my favorite WJ colors. Gave her a once over, just wanted to see what was going on. I had some aftermarket fog lights. I was thinking it might have had a lift, but no such luck. Tires were all foobar. Does look like it's in the yard for an accident, which is kind of a bummer because it was a pretty nice Jeep, That was fixable right there. Now what you need to do to get to these hood latches is get the hood popped. Thankfully on this one everything was working. And then you really just need to remove the grill. On the 03 and 04, it's just a bunch of clips. You can work your fingers around and they will pop off. Way better than the 99 to 02, which has I think 5 or 6 7mm hex screws. These just pop right off. You can do it in a parking lot real quick if you need to get access to your hood latch. Now I ended up needing to use that AC condenser to hold the hood up, no big deal. But these hood latches are super easy to get off. 2 little old bolts, pop one off, pop the other side off. I believe they're 13 mil or they might be 9/16. Either way, you'll figure it out. And then the whole unit pops right off the front. And all you have to do is weasel out that sheathed cable to release the hood latch. Now there's a plastic barbell-shaped retainer that holds the sheathed side of the cable into the hood latch, and one side of that always breaks on WJs. Your WJ in your driveway right now probably has a broken one of those barbell pieces. Not a big deal. Work it out with the pliers. As long as the back side is intact, they still work. We'll talk about this later, but there you go. There is your hood latch mechanism. Now what I'm going to do is take the cable as well, not because I need one on my Jeep, but because I want to have a spare, and I realize I don't actually have a spare. These are held in with what I call arrow clips. They're kind of one-way clips. I suppose there's a way to get them out, but it really doesn't matter. I usually just break them off if they're giving me any amount of trouble at all. There's 3 or 4 of them holding them on. That's what they look like right there. That's one I half got out. The rest I just broke off. This cable goes through the firewall, and it actually has its own boot on the firewall, so it's super easy to figure out where it goes and to put it in and release it. All you have to do is remove it from the latch side, remove all those retaining clips, then you can go inside the Jeep, and if you remove the actual pull latch, this cable will pop right out. There's 3 bolts holding that latch in. On the older ones, they are Torx. On the newer ones, they're hex. Once you have the cable removed from that latch on the inside and you remove that boot from the firewall, your whole thing will pull right out. It is easy as that. If you're pulling a latch, you might as well pull a cable as well. Now, real quick, this is a side note. This is how you're supposed to leave the junkyard. This is a public service announcement from Doug Adini in the garage. You pack up your tools, as one does. You put all your parts aside. Then you put as much as you can back together. I removed the air filter on this Jeep. I'm going to put it back so that the next guy knows this motor came in complete, not in pieces. And additionally, obviously, close all the doors in the hood, man. There's nothing worse than rolling up on a motor and you need engine components, but the hood's been open for God knows how long. And you're like, well, have they been rained on? Are they any good? Is there water in the motor? Is everything rusty internally? It's not hard to put things back the way you found them. Close the doors, close the hood. I even put the grill back on so that if somebody wanted the grill and bumper, they knew they could grab it. Now, on my way out, I also grabbed one of these lower pieces for the center stack there. If you didn't get the smokers group in your WJ, this is what your center console piece looks like. I prefer the cubby to the flip-down ashtray. My wallet fits in there real nice, and the one in my WJ just wasn't holding on. Additionally, it's always good to have extra heated seat buttons because they go bad all the time.
It's gonna break my heart, friends. I never do this. But we're not gonna explore every vehicle in the yard. We're not even gonna track down every Jeep. We're not even gonna hit every Grand Cherokee. I know, we're on a time budget today. Executive producers need picked up, so let's pay for this crap and get home.
So we have our donor, we've confirmed that it works. All I wanna do is knock off the surface rust, paint the outside, lube the inside, then we'll do a quick install. Alrighty friends, this Magic brand all-purpose enamel is great for projects like this. It doesn't mind a little bit of rust. It's a lot like the Rust-Oleum tractor and implement paint. The way I recommend is 3 to 5 coats, getting thicker as you go. First one is barely touching it, last one's a pretty heavy coat for a good finish. When you're done painting it, if it's 90 degrees outside, sit it in the sun. Otherwise, get a heater and cook that little thing, seriously, for about 2 hours. Now, placement is key here. You don't want to bubble the paint off it. You don't want the metal getting too hot. But you do want this thing to just be living in a cocoon of dry, warm air. It will cook that enamel on, and it's going to come out absolutely 10 out of 10. Would recommend. There you go. You can kind of see. That's the finished product. 2 hours cooking. And there she goes, friends. No reason to overthink it. We just want to do a little bit of protection. And then I like to throw some grease on the back of these specifically. A little dab over these springs there. And a little bit along in here is not gonna hurt, and it'll prevent some future rust, as well as help prevent the system from seizing up. Any place where it's gonna be metal on metal. It's not a bad idea to add a little grease. There we go. Wipe off any excess that might get on your clothes if you're reaching over to do an oil change or God knows what. You're gonna take your cable, work it through the large side of that hole on the driver's side of the assembly, take the lug and place it into the slot in the arm on the mechanism. Now that plastic barbell piece we're talking about before, you can see right there, I'm playing with the broken side. If the latch side is broken, you can keep it and use it, because as long as it's retained properly inside the Jeep on the other side of the latch, it does not matter. It just needs pressure on the back of it. The front side can be broken, and again, most of them are. I'll bet yours sitting out in your driveway is broken right now. Now here's how you're gonna set up your hood height. Get that thing lightly in there and slam it closed. Go over and check the gaps or the lineup between your hood and your fender. Loosen this guy a little bit so that you have some movement in it. Go back over to where your gaps are, make them right, and then tighten it up. I really don't know how else I could possibly explain it to you. It's a super easy process. If you're going to be removing your existing one and putting it back on, you can actually hit those nuts with a little bit of paint. They will leave a shadow exactly where your latch was last time, and you can go ahead and just put it back in the same spot. But if you're putting a different one on than the one you originally had, you're going to have to line everything up, and this is a really good method to use. Not too bad, friends, not too bad. Last thing we have to do is test the release from inside the Jeep. Hey, there we go. She works a treat. Maybe a little too much grease. Other than that though, it's okay. It's all just rust proofing. Whew, buddy, that's all there is to it. This project is done. I do still have to put the bump hair back on, but I'm thinking I'm gonna swap up from the 99 to 02 style to the 03, 04 style. Actually, that one I was working on yesterday would have done it. I could have taken that one and painted it. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do something with the front of this Jeep now that the big honking winch is on it. Anyway, point being, this project's done. So if you got any more questions about Jeep hood latches, by all means leave me a comment down in there in squawk boxes. If I can't help you, somebody else in the amazing D&E community will absolutely be able to answer your question, guaranteed. Other than that, I just want to point out, this is why I love driving American SUVs from the 90s and the early 2000s. They're so easy to work on, and they're everywhere in the junkyard. So the parts are cheap and easy to get. I didn't have to wait a week and a half for something to come in and be not driving the Jeep and spend, $100 on a crappy part that I didn't want to be replacing anyway. If that doesn't make any sense to you, fine, move on. But if it does, you should really follow this channel, because that's pretty much everything we're doing here. The whole point is like, hey man, how easily and inexpensively can I keep my life moving from a vehicle standpoint? That's basically the whole thesis here, right? And that's what we did today. This was $5. The Quadratech one would have been about $50 shipped, and they just go up from there. I will leave you an Amazon link to one if you absolutely need one. You can send me an email, dneoffroad@gmail.com, if you would like one out of the junkyard. I'm not always able to get them, but sometimes I can get them for you. Outside of that, if you like the video, subscribe to the channel. The rain's rolled in, so it's time for me to get off the driveway. Thanks so much for watching. Can't wait to see y'all on the next one.
I hate Jeep. I owned a Jeep one time. It was a 95 Grand Cherokee. It was the first.
That's my shit, Grand Cherokees too.
This is the first
95.
truck I bought, man. I fucking put some 20s on it. I had the death wobble.
Death wobble's terrible, man.
I lost the transmission.
Oh, geez. You got a bad one.
I said, I'm done with.
That's fair. This whole conversation is going to be on there for sure. Yeah. Viewers are going to like this one. All right, bud. Take care. What do you drive then? If not Jeeps, what do you drive then?
I'm in the Chevys, man.
Chevys? Oh, at least you're American still.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Toyota or something. That would have broke my heart.